I know this world is constantly rushing, jumping from one obligation to the next, barely breathing between coffee breaks and closed doors. So if you're still here, even for a few seconds, I just want to say thank you. I rewrite this story not with revenge in my heart, but with the quiet hands of someone who spent a decade wondering if they were ever more than a shadow. Maybe you've felt like that too, like you existed only in the margins of someone else's life. So, I won't ask you to like or to follow, but if you feel something here, let me know you're still listening. Just a touch on the like button. That's enough. They were laughing. Glasses clinked. Forks scraped across porcelain. Her birthday brunch was in full swing, and I was the ghost at the table. Linda, my stepmother, lifted her champagne flute and tapped it gently with her knife. To my two real children, she beamed. Jared, who just got promoted to junior VP, and Maddie, who got into NYU's pre-law program. Applause, cheers. Someone said, "Proud mama moment." I smiled politely. I always did. She continued. And as for Avery, she looked at me, then away. We've made the difficult decision. Starting next week, Avery will be attending Lakeside Behavioral Academy for structure, for their own good. There were gasps, but only polite ones. You'd think she'd announced a spa retreat. No one looked at me. No one asked why. I didn't cry. I looked at the table, at my untouched eggs Benedict, at the gift I'd wrapped myself still sitting under her chair, unopened. My dad was already signing the papers. Literally. He pulled out a manila envelope and clicked his pen. No one else noticed, or they pretended not to. Lakeside wasn't a school. It was a holding place for children that didn't fit the story their families wanted to tell. The hallway smelled like bleach and cold chicken nuggets. The walls were painted soft beige, the kind of beige that pretends to be calming, but just feels like silence stretched too thin. They shaved my belongings down to essentials. No phone, no journals, no books unless approved. Even the hoodie I brought from home, the one that still smelled faintly of cinnamon and old pine from my childhood bedroom, was deemed non-compliant. They handed me a new one, gray, no pockets. There were rules, of course. Eye contact during conversation, no slouching. Weekly evaluations, group therapy, and nobody ever said my name right. Aubrey? No, Avery. Oh, right. The first night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of the bed, it was fine, but because my head kept replaying all the quiet betrayals that had led me here. I remembered that Christmas morning when Linda gave everyone Apple products. Maddie got a MacBook. Jared, an Apple Watch. I got a pair of novelty socks that said, "Try harder" on the soles. I remembered how my painting, the one I'd poured 2 months into, was tossed into the garage until we find a frame. It never reappeared. How Linda would say to guests, "This is Avery, from Greg's first marriage. Never my stepchild, never our family. Just a footnote, a detail, an asterisk." And I remembered the day they turned my bedroom into her sewing room. She didn't even tell me. I came home from school and found all my things in garbage bags at the foot of the stairs. She said, "You're old enough to have your own space now. The basement has more freedom." But the basement didn't have windows or heat. Dad never stopped her. It started small. My 3rd month at Lakeside, the school nurse asked why no one picked up when I fainted during PE. I told her to try again. Maybe the number changed. She double-checked. "This is the number listed on your file," she said. Greg Whitman. Linda Whitman. No answer. No voicemail. Weeks later, a janitor, Mr. Holden, who always gave out peppermints, handed me a crumpled envelope. "Think this is yours," he mumbled. It was one of my letters, the one I wrote to Dad a month ago. It had been returned, big red stamp, all caps. "No such person at this address." I stared at that ink like it was a punch to the chest. Later that day, during art therapy, a new volunteer sat beside me. Mrs. K. She didn't say her full name, but she brought oil pastels and let us work in silence. She watched me draw a wilted sunflower with its petals curling inward. "You're not from around here?" she said softly. I shook my head. "Family?" "Kind of," I answered. She nodded like she knew too much. After a while, she whispered, "Just so you know, most kids here, they don't belong here. Someone just wanted them somewhere else." I didn't ask her to explain. I didn't have to. Weeks passed. I got a few more envelopes returned, all marked the same. All from the same address I used since I was 6. The school counselor told me I was making great emotional progress. But I felt like a ghost who remembered being alive. One evening, we were watching a movie in the rec room, some washed-out DVD about a boy and his magical dog, when I heard my name over the intercom. "Whitman, call for you." I ran. It wasn't Dad. It was Maddie. Her voice was tight, high. "Don't call here again," she hissed. "Linda says you're embarrassing her." Then she hung up. The girl behind the front desk, Sarah. 10 years. That's how long it had been since I last heard her voice. Not a word. Not even an accidental holiday card. And then the phone rang. It was a Tuesday. I was at work, sorting supply invoices for the school where I volunteered. Nothing dramatic, just another quiet afternoon. "Is this Avery Whitman?" "Yes." "This is Memorial West Hospital. You're listed as the legal medical guardian for Linda Whitman." Silence. I thought they had the wrong person. I haven't spoken to her in years." The nurse hesitated. "That's not what she told us. Apparently, she came in through the ER, collapsed at home. No close contact listed except one. Me. Signed in her own hand." The words didn't land all at once. It was like my brain refused to absorb them. I found myself walking toward the hospital before I could talk myself out of it. The air smelled like old cotton and sterile regret. The kind of place where people whisper louder than they speak. When I reached her room, she was barely conscious. Tubes, pale skin, IV drip slow and steady like a ticking clock. But her eyes, they opened, and she saw me, not shocked, not surprised, just tired. A flicker of something passed across her face. Recognition? Guilt? I couldn't tell. Her voice was barely audible. She gestured toward a photo album resting on the tray table. "Orange. Album," she croaked. I opened it. Mostly pictures of Maddie and Jared. Birthday parties, college visits, vacations I was never invited to. Then, tucked in a sleeve behind a baby picture of Jared, a folded piece of paper. Lined. Handwritten. I unfolded it, expecting another jab. A final justification. A parting insult. But instead, I read, "Avery, if you're reading this, I'm probably not doing well." I never knew how to say things out loud, so I wrote them. "I know I didn't treat you like you mattered, but you did. You were the only one who asked if I was tired, who noticed when I cried during the car ride back from the grocery store, who sat next to me when I said nothing. You never asked for love, but you gave it anyway. When the others forgot my birthday last year, you sent a card. Late, but still. No one else did." I didn't plan to go back to the house, but when the hospital asked for personal items, clothes, insurance documents, anything with a signature, I had no choice. The front door felt heavier than I remembered. Everything inside was pristine, clean, curated. Not a photograph out of place. Not a speck of dust. But cold. Like a museum where no one lived, just posed. Jared arrived first. Still smug in that way people get when they think the world owes them another round of applause. "Didn't think you'd show up," he said, not even trying to hide the edge in his voice. "I didn't come for you," I replied. Then Maddie. hair perfectly blown out, voice dripping with sympathy for the nurses, not me. She gave me a once-over. I thought you lived in Kansas or something. Brooklyn, I corrected. They laughed. Well, you always were the artsy one. That wasn't a compliment. I didn't answer. I just moved through the house like a shadow. Every step was a memory I didn't ask for. There. The hallway where she told me I was too old to be afraid of storms. The staircase I sat on during their anniversary party, waiting for someone to notice I hadn't eaten. The coat closet where my sketchbook disappeared. Her bedroom hadn't changed much. Scented candles, framed photo of her with Maddie at graduation. But in her jewelry box, I found another envelope, unlabeled. Inside, a power of attorney document, signed, witnessed, stamped, granting me complete authority over all decisions, medical and otherwise. I stared at the signature. Linda Whitman. Date, 4 months ago. 4 months. She hadn't spoken to me in a decade. And then this. I turned around and nearly jumped. Jared stood at the doorframe. What are you doing in here? Following hospital orders, I replied, holding the envelope. He stepped forward, tried to snatch it. I pulled back. His hand froze mid-air. You think you're in charge now? No, I said quietly. She did. He laughed, sharp, mean. She was sick. She didn't know what she was doing. Maybe, I said, tucking the paper into my jacket. But she didn't put your name on it. Silence. He looked like he wanted to scream, but didn't know how to do it without losing composure. Maddie walked in. What's going on? She gave it to them, Jared barked. Can you believe that? Maddie looked at me. You're not even family anymore. I didn't flinch. Funny, I said. That's what you told the post office too, right? They froze, and for the first time in years I felt it. Not victory, not power, just presence. I didn't need to prove anything. I already had the paper, and more importantly, I had the choice to walk away, or stay, and make it count. So I did neither. I just said, she's still in room 208, you can visit. But don't touch anything. Then I walked past them, down the same hallway I once tiptoed through. Not afraid, not erased. The will wasn't dramatic. No gasps, no secret safes sliding open behind bookshelves. Just a quiet meeting in the hospital's legal office. The attorney was a gray-haired woman with square glasses and a calm voice. She laid out the documents on a smooth oak table. Jared and Maddie sat across from me, arms crossed like they were bracing for a storm. She made some changes, the lawyer began. Jared rolled his eyes. Sure, a dying woman scribbling notes doesn't mean anything legally. But then the lawyer lifted a sealed envelope, Linda's handwriting, dated, witnessed. This one does. She read it aloud. To whom it may concern, and to those pretending to care, I am of sound mind and fully aware that this letter will upset some. But I've spent my life choosing convenience over conscience, and I'm done with that. Avery, if you're hearing this, it's because I finally saw you for who you've always been. Quiet, observant, steady. You never tried to win me, and maybe that's why I trust you now. You were never my responsibility, but you became my mirror. And when I looked into it, I didn't like what I saw. So I leave to you the following. Full legal guardianship over my estate and affairs, the house, because you were the only one who ever knocked before entering, and the remainder of my accounts, to be used however you see fit. I trust you'll do better with them than I did. To Jared and Maddie, I leave my memories. Make of them what you will. Linda silence. The air in that room thickened like honey. Maddie's mouth dropped open. She was manipulated. She didn't mean that. The lawyer adjusted her glasses. We have 3 separate confirmations from the notary, the hospital ethics board, and her primary physician. No signs of coercion. Jared slammed his hand on the table. This is insane. She was our mother. No, I said. She was your provider, but she was never your witness. They glared at me like I had stolen. They didn't leave right away. Jared threatened legal action, said he'd get a second lawyer, maybe even take it to court. Maddie called it elder abuse, manipulation, betrayal. But there was no fire in their words, just panic, desperation masked as outrage. I was here, Maddie cried. I visited every weekend. You took selfies in her kitchen and left before dessert, I said flatly. Jared jabbed a finger at me. You weren't even around. Because you sent me away, I answered. And every time I tried to come back, you changed the locks. The lawyer didn't interrupt. She just let the air tighten. They kept spiraling, grasping, trying to rewrite the story. Then Mrs. K walked in, the art therapist from Lakeside. I didn't know she was connected to Linda, but she was. Apparently, Linda started attending quiet art therapy sessions once her health declined. I was asked to deliver this, she said gently, pulling out a flash drive. A video. Linda, sitting on a hospital bed, no makeup, looking tired, but clear. She spoke directly to the camera. I know they'll say I was confused. I wasn't. I know what I'm doing. For once in my life, I'm choosing someone not because it makes sense on paper, but because it feels earned. She paused, looked straight into the lens. I hurt you, Avery. I ignored you, not because you were bad, but because you were too good, and I didn't know how to accept kindness that didn't come with conditions. The screen went black. Jared muttered. She was manipulated. But no one believed it anymore. Even Maddie went quiet. They tried to fight for her jewelry, her car. Not because they cared. I didn't go back to the hospital when she passed. I signed the forms, handled the cremation, paid for everything in full. But I didn't stand at her bedside, hold her hand, or whisper forgiveness into her ear. That moment had come and gone. The day she looked at me and said nothing. It wasn't hate that kept me away. It was clarity. I didn't need to be loved anymore. I just needed to be real. At the memorial, Maddie gave a eulogy, talked about Linda's devotion, her style, her generosity. Jared stood next to her, stoic, arms crossed. They wore grief like tailored suits, just the right shade of sorrow. I sat in the back row, alone, in a plain black shirt. I didn't cry. After the service, a few distant relatives approached me with soft eyes. She must have really trusted you, one said. Another added, she was tough on you because she saw herself in you. I nodded, but I knew the truth. She was hard on me because I reminded her of what she didn't know how to love. Something too honest, too quiet, too steady. Later that day, I stood in the kitchen of her house, my house now, and poured myself a glass of water. The way the light streamed in through the blinds caught in the dust. It looked like a halo, brief, almost holy. I turned around slowly, took one last glance. The family photos, the beige carpets, the wall where I used to press my ear and listen to them laugh without me. I didn't want any of it. The building wasn't much at first, just a vacant community center with flickering lights and water stains on the ceiling. But it had something no other place did. It had potential. I used Linda's inheritance to restore it, but I didn't name it after her, or me. I named it Second Shelter, a place for teens who'd been erased, kids sent away, not because they were broken, but because someone else couldn't handle their truth. We started small, 5 students, 1 part-time therapist, a shelf of secondhand books and journals with soft covers. I built a quiet room, no clocks, no cameras, just cushions and pens and the kind of music you barely notice until your breath slows down. One afternoon, A girl named Rosie stood at the door. Didn't speak. Didn't move. Just looked like she was holding her own name together with string. I handed her a notebook. No lecture, no rules. She came back the next day, and the next. Now, she teaches art to the younger kids. I keep my own journal on my desk. The same one I started at Lakeside. It has tape on the spine, ink smudges, and one page that just says, I am not invisible. I am uninvited, not unwanted. I framed that page, hung it in the hallway. Sometimes I visit the garden out back. The shed is there, the same one from Linda's house. I had it moved, rebuilt plank by plank. Inside it, I stacked every letter I ever wrote. Still sealed. They remind me, you can love someone and still walk away from them. Not out of anger, but because staying silent for too long becomes a kind of lie. We started a scholarship fund last spring. Gave 5 kids a way out. One of them wrote in her application, I don't want revenge. I just want to stop whispering. I understood that. That summer, I sat under the pergola as sunlight slipped through the slats like forgiveness. I didn't need to be anyone's child anymore. I was someone's anchor, someone's mirror, someone's beginning. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I had to prove anything to exist. Mornings at Second Shelter arrive slow, like the world forgot to rush us. The sun spills in sideways through the east windows, catching in the dust like glitter we didn't ask for, but get anyway. A few kids trickle in early, notebooks in hand, still wrapped in last night's quiet. I sit on the front porch sometimes, coffee in one hand, the other resting on the old bench we salvaged from Linda's backyard. I kept it not because it meant something, but because I wanted it to mean something now. There's a tree growing near it, one we planted the first day we opened. We didn't know what it was back then. Turns out, it's a fig. Slow growing, stubborn, but generous once it decides to bloom. The garden's filling out now. Tomatoes, basil, even a few wild strawberries if you know where to look. One of the kids, Evan, painted a mural last week. It's abstract. Swirls of indigo and amber, sharp edges softening toward the top. He said it reminded him of breathing. I said that made sense. He didn't explain. I didn't ask. Linda's name doesn't appear anywhere in the building, but I see her in small ways. The way I refill the coffee pot before anyone asks. The way I keep a drawer full of blank thank you cards just in case. The way I pause before I answer. Not because I'm afraid, but because I want to mean it. Some nights, I walk the empty halls, just to hear the sound of peace settling, and other nights, when the moon is sharp and the wind moves like memory, I sit beneath the fig tree with a lantern and reread one